Happy New Year. I hope everybody's doing great. We we're back to do more art and I have my paper. I hope you're getting your material together. We have paper, um, pencil, eraser on the pencil, or an eraser, if you can find a hard eraser, and a pencil sharpener. As always, I say try to keep a couple of pencils that have been sharpened, and that way when you need to sharpen a pencil, you just switch pencils and save a little time. Eventually, you'll have to sharpen your pencils unless you have hundreds of pencils. But if you're in the if you're doing something and you don't want to, if you're still concentrated, you don't want to get your mind out of it. Having more pencils um, keeps you focused on that which you're doing, if that makes sense. Try to sharpen your pencils right at moments where you are are gonna do something different, or you're not that concentrated on finishing something. Great. So that's the reason. I hope that makes sense. Having a few pencils is great. And check your pencils. Sometimes some make a mark that is a little darker than the others. But all these yellow pencils are the classic pencil you find anywhere. And they should have a number 2. So make sure that they say number 2. You see? Okay. That's actually stands for 2B. 2B. So if you have a set of drawing pencils, that will be the number 2B. Great. So what we're gonna do today um, is a long video, but I thought of putting in practice many of the things we have learned in a still life. So what is a still life? A still life is a drawing that has objects um, that you can by looking at them, obviously, and they're still, just like the word says. And the fact that it's called still life is that more likely through history, when this genre is a genre began, the things they were painting or drawing were things that were once alive. So that's why it's called still life, because it's nature objects that were once alive. For example, foods, right? Vegetables, flowers, um, fruits, and also animals. And in the old days, as it was a good way to practice your skills, um, because you're drawing out of nature, but you don't have to worry about um, the thing moving, right? So or weather if you're outside. If and you're outside and drawing flowers, that's great, but you will have to come home at some point. I'm talking in old days, because it gets dark, right? So at home, you could light up a candle and still working on your drawing on the flower that you cut out, or that's why it's called still life, or an animal you can see in detail because it's not moving around. Um, doesn't have to be objects that were alive once. Many still lives can be just um, a jar of water, a cup, um, a rag, one thing that is emphasized in this subject is composition, just like any, but in this genre, you can manipulate your objects to create interesting compositions. So as we start developing our drawing, we've done this exercise before, but this time I'll tell you more about it in a moment on the things I want to emphasize. So we'll take it easy, and we'll come out at the end of this 2-hour video with a really nice drawing, and I know all of us can do. Okay. So I hope you have your materials by now. If at any point you need to pause, go back, pause so you can see what the drawing state is in, and you can catch up or to pay attention to something I did. It's a video, so you could always do that. All right. And you can watch it as many times as you want at home, right? That sort of thing. So let's do this. I have more than one piece of paper. You see, we're gonna use only one, but it's always good to have something under your paper that is not the hard surface. Okay. Um, so we're gonna start by looking at our surface where we're going to use. So it's gonna be horizontal, meaning long way side to side. You see, horizontal from left to right. Vertical will be like this. Vertical will be something standing. Okay. This is horizontal or landscape. And we're going to start a drawing by dividing visually. Okay, we're not going to use a ruler. Visually dividing top and bottom in half. We're going to draw a very light line where we think is half of the paper. My line is going to be a little darker, but you please keep yours light because I need to make sure you see my line in the video. But at home, you don't need to make it this dark, as long as you know where it is. Okay. All right. So what this marks is the edge of our surface in the back. Okay, in the back. So if you look at a table, or if your table is against the wall, this is the point where the table meets the wall. Okay. So all our objects will be in front of it. I hope that kind of makes sense. All our objects will be in front of it, and some objects will be in front of each other. We're going to shade this, and like I said, it's going to be very simple. Maybe some of you haven't done a still life with me. Most of you may have, because we've done this before. We have practice skills to get to here, and the last drawings have been about outside and shading, and but we're going to do the shading here also, and that's where I want to emphasize what we have learned, because besides shading for light, I'm going to teach you some little tricks to emphasize your drawing on shading, by shading. Okay. I have many sheets of papers under this one, so I'm going to take one. I'm going to take one of these, and then I'm going to keep it. You don't see this on the video, but I'm going to keep it to my side because it's good to have a sheet of paper to practice something you need to draw, right? If you need to draw a certain pattern, you can do that on your side paper and not on your actual work of art, right? Okay. Great. So let's start by thinking of the shapes that we um, have practiced before. And this will be good for our still life. So, um, okay. So we have, I'm actually gonna use the side paper right now, not the original, just to point this out, okay? This is repetition for some of you, but in this sheet of paper, I'm gonna do um, five objects, okay, that come out of these three shapes, okay? So the three shapes are, you could do this on your side paper. So I'm gonna ask you to please have two sheets of papers, this one, right, to practice, and the piece of paper here where we are going to do our work of art, you know. So the three shapes are with the circle. We're going to end up with five objects, but this is very important. And actually, this is where Cézanne, the famous painter, impressionist, Cézanne, or post-impressionist, actually, because he went beyond impressionism. He based all his work with these five objects, and artists knew this before him. It's very important. So we have the circle, we have the triangle, right? And then we have the square. So out of these three shapes, we're going to make five objects. And I'm going to draw these objects. You're going to see. So let me write here circle, triangle, and then square. But watch how out of the circle comes the sphere. So the sphere just looks like a circle, but imagine that it's actually, round like a ball. And we're going to shade it in a moment. Okay? So out of the circle comes the sphere. Out of the triangle, guess what? Comes the pyramid. Okay? And in this one, I'm going to do another side of it just to make it look three-dimensional. This we don't know yet because we haven't shaded, but this one we could make another side right here. You see that? And kind of looks like a pyramid now. And then the square, um, the object that comes out of the square is the cube. Now this is making sense, right? And a cube has six sides, like a dice. So I need to, well, I don't have to. We could be looking at it from one side, but I'm gonna show two more sides so you could make it three-dimensional, like if you were looking from the corner. So for that, I'm gonna put a line up here like this in an angle. I'm gonna repeat that here, and I'm gonna repeat that here. So now if I connect this, you see, we see one side, two sides, and up here I connect here, and then we have three sides. So one, two, three. We're just making the object. Think about it. So we're making them three-dimensionally. So sphere, triangle, cube. The cube, right, comes out of a square in this case, which we know a square has all the sides the same. But in nature, the cube could be a rectangle, of any size. The fact is that it has six sides, right? One, two, three, and other three that we don't see. We don't see the side back here, the side under, and the side over here. We don't see. So, okay, so I say five objects, so we have three here. One, two, three. The fourth is guess what? If we combine the circle with the triangle, guess what? Guess what we get? We get the cone. So for the cone, I'm gonna make it like this, like a triangle, but the bottom is gonna be curved down, like if it's, look, like an ice cream cone, but upside down. Okay? And to make it three-dimensional, don't worry, we'll shade it in a moment. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and we have one last one. And if you learn all these 5 objects, you could draw anything. Um, you could build. This is what Cézanne said, an artist before him, which is true, is that you could base any drawing object that you draw out of these 5 shapes. You could build your drawing out of them. So we need one fifth one, and it's when you combine the circle with the cube. So that would be, guess what? The cylinder. So for the cylinder, let me write here cone. Sorry. And I'm going to underline this because we're emphasizing the objects, not the shapes. These up here are the shapes. This is a shape. These are objects names. So the cylinder have straight sides, but the top and the bottom are curved because it's round. So you decide which one is the bottom, which one is the top. If it's the top and we want to see it, you can make a oval, and you see you can look at the top, but then you cannot see the bottom. So the bottom is a curve like that. So now we have a cylinder, kind of like, So what I mean is you see the cylinder, you see the oval here, but not down here, because the other side of this curve, it's on the other side, right? So this is the cylinder, and that's it. If you have these 5 objects memorized, um, you could basically build anything, because follow me here. This cylinder could be the pencil. If I want to draw a pencil, I'm going to base it on the cylinder. If I'm going to draw this eraser, I'm going to base it on the cube. You know what I mean? So combining things like that, this is very important. You could draw anything. If you have uh, a cup, right? Um, a cup has will be like a cylinder, um, right? Maybe the handle, a sphere. I don't know. But let's shade this. So I'm gonna keep one side top left untouched and the bottom right. I'm gonna shade it like if it's the moon, like a half moon. You see? We're just doing simple shading. So now it looks like it's a sphere because we gave it a little shading. It looks more real. So in this one, the triangle, we just shade one side more than the other. So we leave one alone and maybe shade this side. And that tell us that one side is being hit by the light, and the other sides, because they're not hit directly, take a little shade. Same thing here. One side, you decide which one. You could choose any side, but I'm gonna choose maybe this side we're looking at. Actually, no, let's keep the light source the same. So it's coming from the top left. So I'm gonna leave the top here alone, like the light is hitting the top, and I'm gonna shade this side that is facing us, and I'm gonna shade a little darker the side to the right. So this one is gonna be a little darker, and now our cube is three-dimensional, you know. And then here also the left side is light up, the right side has a little shade. But you gotta be careful here because um, just like the sphere, just don't do the whole thing. Just do kind of half, and then grade and bring more darkness here to the right, because this is round. So it's very soft, the transition from light to dark. Same thing with the cylinder. The left side is taking the light, the right side is taking the shadow or the shade. So we're just going to shade half of it, shade half of it, but the right side shade it a little more. And what that means is that it's taking more shadow because it's round, or sorry, curve. Okay, you see how it looks three-dimensional? And I'm not shading the top because the light is coming from the top. So I'm going to put an arrow showing where the light source is coming from. One last thing is that this is three-dimensional objects. That's why they're taking a shading. Three-dimensional means something you can hold, you can grab, right? It has, this is what three-dimensional means, and the cube is a good example. It has height, right? It has height. It has length, so from left to right. That's two dimensions, one, two, but we say three dimensions. So the third dimension, when you think about it, is the depth. It's this one here, is the depth. So when you look at a photograph or a painting or a drawing is two-dimensional, just like the paper has length and height, or it doesn't have the dip, the width, the depth of it. We're gonna, when you draw, you create that illusion. Okay, so there's more dimensions, obviously, but we're just on TV. When you watch TV, people argue, the fourth dimension is movement. Once you have movement, it's the fourth dimension. Fifth dimensions could be time. Then you add time. I don't know. And then So okay, so this put it to the side. This is a good reference to keep around because now you could draw anything. You could literally draw anything. If you're gonna draw an apple, you're gonna base it on what? On the sphere. If you're gonna draw a house, the cube, you know, a tree. A tree might be a combination of the cylinder with the sphere, right? Okay, so I'm gonna keep that to the side, and now that's exactly what we're gonna do. Let's do some circles representing oranges. So oranges in the still life will be circle. So let's do one. I don't know. I'm randomly doing one here. Did you see how I did the circle? So instead of going really hard from the beginning and making my circle, I moved my pencil and then I tossed the paper and kept on moving it until I got the circle perfect that I want. It's okay if you have tons of lines because first we could erase them if you want, and secondly we're going to shade. So if we shade this, many of these lines are going to erase by the shading. So that's why it's always to always start your drawing very light and don't go too hard. Okay, don't go too dark. Don't ever do this. This is a no-no. I'm gonna not do it on top of this paper, but don't be too harsh like this. You see how hard I'm pressing down on the paper? There's no need. You um, you're shutting down the paper by going too hard like that. Look, always. This is what I mean. Let's say I want to shade something really really dark. Don't do that. You're shutting down the paper that's under this, and also um, you could actually sometimes rip the paper if it's a thin paper. Children go like that and are very hard. So what I want you to do is build upon look. One, you see that? Very light. Two, a second layer. Three, four. You keep building layers. Five, six. You could actually get to be this dark, but you let the paper breathe. Seven, eight, nine. And actually, you could also, by doing that, you control your shading because let's say I want to, this is one, right? But over here, there's something lighter. So I do one. The second thing is a little darker. So I do two. You got control of what you're shading in scales. Okay. So we did one orange here. I'm going to do three or more. Three is a good number. But before I do my third or second, I want to do other objects. And that will help me place my next oranges. So rather than doing all my oranges where I want them, the other objects are going to help me position those. So over here, or over here, but I'm going to put it to the left. It's time for me to, you see, switch pencils. This one is, eventually I'll sharpen my pencils, but it's good to have a few pencils to just grab. So over here, we're going to do a bottle, like, like a thick bottle. A wine bottle tends to be thinner and higher. This one is going to be a little thicker. But the bottle will be what object? A cylinder. So we're going to do a cylinder, and you'll see how we're going to make a bottle out of that. So a cylinder here, and practicing what we have learned or you have seen, a little bit is understandable. Maybe this thick. Remember the bottom of the cylinder was curved? So this same curve, we're going to bring it up here. But we're going to close it with a, like an oval. And that's our cylinder. Just to help me visually, I'm going to erase the line that goes through our bottle here. Anything you can do that helps you visualize your drawing as you progress is really important to just get your drawing at that, in that state, because then it helps you see what you're doing. So anything that helps you see the drawing developing is what I mean. Get it like that. So that's why I erased that line. This line again represents the edge of our surface, table, wall, or it could be like a piece of cloth too that's back here if we do some wrinkles or something. But now something I want you to notice is, did you see how the orange is a little bit lower than the bottle? So if I were to draw a line right here, the orange is lower than the bottle. So that means the orange is closer to us. Just remember that. Lines progress up. We learned this when we did some drawings um, on landscapes outside, and we learned that if something is closer to us, it needs to be on a plane, and I calling these lines planes, closer, oh sorry, lower. So if it's lower, it's closer. If it's up here, if I would draw right now something and the bottom of it is up here, it will be behind the bottle, even if it's not actually behind. You know what I mean. Okay, so that's one thing to understand of perspective. So we have a bottle here, but the bottle is going to have a neck. So the neck will be another cylinder here. Okay, and I'm not going to do the bottom of it because it's going to be attached to the bottle. It's not like a cylinder detached from it. But I am gonna do the top. So the top is another oval. And we can actually erase this line here in the middle of the neck. because you see how it's taking shape as a bottle. Now you understand what Cezanne meant by saying you could draw anything out of those five objects. Okay, so I'm gonna kind of lightly erase this line here. It is there. Don't get me wrong. It will be there, but it won't be as pronounced. Okay, and because it's a bottle, I'm gonna be more gentle in this curve here. You see that more pronounced curve right here, like the shoulders. So we got the neck of the bottle, and what we're doing is kind of emphasizing the curve. And I'm just visually, what I just did was visually kind of like get a sense of symmetry, okay? And curve here too on the neck. So please get to this stage. Um, we can wait a little until you catch up, or you could um, um, you will. I'm curving here a little, and I'm curving here. I don't want to make it too dark because we might have objects in front of the bottle. Anyway, so this is our bottle. This is our orange. Is it making sense now how we build things out of these objects? Okay, so orange bottle. What else can we do? We're going to do more oranges, two more or even more. Three minimum. Three is a good number. The bottle is one. And one of the reasons why the bottle is here to the left, doesn't have to, okay, but visually helps us in the composition because the world is right-handed. And just like when you open a book or you read or you write from left to right, having something here that opens up the paper, the drawing, it's visually appealing. You could have it to the left, sure, and it will work as a stopper. You think about it. So this is what happens when you look at anything. When you look at any object or anything you look, when you wake up and you look around, your eyes are constantly going to the center of your vision of where you're looking and finding symmetry. So they move from the center, not out. They move from the center to the left because the world is right-handed. So that's why um, you could have someone sitting down. I don't want to go too much into this, but you could have someone sitting down in a portrait um, to the left, right, facing to the right, to the left. That's very rare. That's very rare, but it could be done. But the rule, okay, the majority of the portraits, when someone is sitting down, they are facing to the left because you're looking at them and you stop. You stop with them. They're right here, facing that way. Look at the Mona Lisa. She's sitting down. The Mona Lisa is sitting down, yes, but she's tilted facing the left, so she could stop our movement of our vision. If you open up to the right, that's okay. It's not. I'm not saying it's wrong. It opens your vision to escape. It's like, oh, and then you go out. Okay, anyway, so we have a bottle orange. Let's do, this could be a bottle of, you could put water here or juice, you could put anything. So let's do a cup. So the cup will be, where could our cup will be? The cup could be, since I already did this orange, the cup could be around almost the middle. I think this is the middle of the paper, but the center of the cup will be like a little bit to the right, like about here. So for the cup, I'm gonna put it. You see, the thing with the cup is that it's thick, just like we gotta think of when we do an object like the bottle or the cup or even the orange, keep in mind that they're real, like they're three-dimensional. So there's a thickness to them. I cannot put something right at this level behind the bottle, like, because where's the rest of the bottle on the other side? So maybe about here gives you space. So same thing with the cup. So let's do the cup as a cylinder, shorter, cube, like about mm, I'm gonna have to do it more to the middle, maybe here. It's okay. So the cup will be kind of like a square. Follow me here. Yeah, I know it's a cylinder, but I'm I'm getting it completely out of the maybe actually lower. Let's bring it lower, like over here. So it's a square, I know, but we're gonna make it a cylinder. So to make it a cylinder, we're gonna do the oval on the top because we can see the top. We're making it curved, and the bottom has to be curved. Now, something we could do if we want. This is a very plain cup, like a. We're gonna do a handle. Um, and something we could do, if you wish, is to make the bottom thinner than the top. So for that, you gotta curve down the side. Okay, so I just wanted to start with the square or the cube like this. But what I mean is we're gonna curve down just about here. See that? Same thing on the other side. So from here to about here. And you see how now our cup is like thinner or narrower at the bottom than the top. Don't worry, we're gonna do the handle in a moment. Um, and the handle will help us with something that I'm gonna explain you right now. Okay. Let me clean my paper a little bit with all this erasing. It's okay if your drawing is a little dirty with the pencil, okay? Because we're gonna shade in um, but we have let me erase the unnecessary lines here because we don't need these lines now. You see these lines that were making the cup square, remember? Now our cup is defined right here. Okay, so the handle, you could put it anywhere. It could be behind that we don't see it. It could be right here. It could be to the right side. It could be to the left side. But the handle is going to do something that's very important for still lifes and composition in general. When you do a composition, sometimes you want to connect things. And when I say connect, it's like touching. Doesn't mean they need to physically touch, but visually they go over each other. Okay, try not to just make them touch like just the edge. Visually, that's a little confusing. Try try them to go over so that one is in front of the other. So, for example, this orange obviously is not nothing, and the cup and the orange are not touching or under behind each other. But I could put a knife. For example, I could draw a pencil or something back here that connects them. I'm not gonna do that now, but imagine there's something here like this that continues here and it's a knife or something. So now they're visually connecting. So it's almost like if you take away what they are and just take the outline, that thing is going to connect it as a big picture or object rather than now where they are isolated. Okay, so we're going to use the handle and I'm going to put it here to the left to kind of go over the bottle because this cup is in front of the bottle. Why we know it's in front of the bottle? Because remember the plane is lower than the bottle. This is the table. This is the table surface. So anything lower down here, resting, means closer to us. Okay, so for the handle, I'm gonna have to go higher here, like at this edge, and curve like this, what could this be? Like a half of a heart, half of a heart. Okay, it's not a curve. Sorry, it's not half a circle because half a circle will be like right here. You gotta take half. You gotta make it longer at the bottom. Okay, and now we're gonna erase this corner of the bottle to help us visualize the handle. You see how I erased this corner of the bottle because the handle of the cup is in front of the bottle. And we're gonna do this line we did for the handle again, lower or with a distance to make the handle thicker. So look. Does that make sense? To make the handle thicker, we drew the same thing again with a distance. Okay, so let's do let's do we say two more oranges or even more, but two will make three. And the good numbers are 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13. Those numbers are numbers in art or architecture that visually are more appealing because they break the symmetry of um, pairs or even numbers. So it's a little more interesting. It's more interesting to see three oranges than two. Okay, if that makes sense. And they use those numbers for numbers of columns, things like that in architecture. Okay, so we have one. So this what I want to do is what we're gonna do is we're gonna do. Let's put another orange between the bottle and the cup back here. So for this, make sure that where the orange is resting, which we're not gonna see it because the cup is hiding the spot, it's gonna be here. But it's not gonna be resting too low alongside the bottle if it's behind because the bottle is thick. Okay, so keep that in mind. So I'm gonna come up here and do half a circle that almost goes over the cup. And what we're looking at is only half of the orange. You see that? But the orange is gonna rest over here almost. So this orange, we barely see it because I'm gonna show a little more than half. Okay, so a little more than half means that the center is here. So it starts going down right at the center. And this is where the half starts. Does that make sense? See how? Okay. So it's not split entirely perfectly in half. It's like, so what I did is that this is the center of this orange, right? So I didn't put the bottle right through the center. I put the bottle right here. Sorry, the bottle is about here. So to make sure that I do more than half of this orange, I mark where half of it is, like here. And you see that the same. So we're looking at a little more than half of an orange. Okay, we don't need this. I was just showing you. We need one more orange. We're gonna keep it simple, I said. So we're not adding too many, like a basket. Yeah, I still like to have a basket and like more fruits and flowers and things like that. But we're gonna keep it simple. So what I'm gonna do is we're gonna do another orange. This is gonna be interesting because I'm gonna unite these two things. The cup and this orange with another orange, kind of about that is resting here in this plane. So this orange, again, if you don't know exactly where to place it, think of the middle of it. So then both sides touch the cup and this orange. So the middle of the orange will be, I don't want to put it perfectly right between them. So the middle could be a little bit more to the right. And I'll tell you why. Because this side already is very heavy. You see, with all these things. So let's start building this side heavier too. And I'll show you how other things we're going to add. One more thing, two more things. So this will be the center. You see how it's not right through the middle of these two objects? It's going to be like about here. So if I use this line as the middle of my next circle, which represents an orange, it will go about and resting, sorry, resting. Not, it can't be too low close to this one because again, this orange is round. So you need space for the next object that's next to it. So maybe about here. This is the half of it. Remember. Um, hmm. It should be. It's okay. Um, I don't want to both be the same height. You know, this one and this one. So visually. So I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna make it. Lower, like about here. And keep drawing your lines. You know, if you need to make more lines, do more lines until you get it right. This is the lesson of today. You don't have to do it perfectly on the first try. There you go. So now I erase the line that I used to mark my middle. I erase the edge of the table that's going through my orange right here. And that's it. We have three oranges, like I said, a cup, a bottle, and to make the cap of the bottle, just make another line down here. You see, just now this thickness represents like a cap, and to make it stand out, we can make this thicker here, thicker to the size. Okay, this looks a little funny here, so maybe curve it a little less right there. I'm not caring too much about erasing this very dark thick line because I'll tell you in a moment that this side is going to have to be shaded. Okay, perfect. So the other thing I want to do, or we're going to do, you see I put down my pencil, grab another one that's already been sharpened here. It's good to have more than one pencil already sharpened, or this is the time to actually sharpen them because I'm about to start doing something. But when you switch pencils, it's because more likely you are working on something. You don't want to waste time. You're inspired, so you just want to grab another pencil right away. Okay. I'm gonna open this orange, and open it by by marking half of it. Let's keep it simple. We could mark half of it, but not straight up and down. We're gonna mark half of it a little bit angle this line that splits it. You see how this line also splits it? So it's the same. We could have the middle of a circle measuring the diameter like this any way, right? Any way we want. So I angle it a little. It's probably too much, but I don't want to keep it straight coming down like this. See, like, okay. So now, because this is round, right? I'm gonna curve this. This could happen actually, sorry. This straight line could happen. We could be looking at an orange that has been sliced, not in half, just a quarter of it has been taken out or something. And we see just right through this line. But to make it a little more realistic, I'm gonna take this same line and I'm gonna curve it. Okay. I'm gonna curve it um, like this. See how we curve that line? So I'm gonna erase now the line that is straight. And now our line is kind of curved. So now it looks like, if I were to do the inside of an orange here, how it looks like someone cut a piece. Okay. So where is that piece? Let's put it over here. We're gonna do a slice of an orange right here. So if you think about it, everything also compositionally, this is actually not something we're looking at or I'm looking at. We're doing this out of the imagination. So if you think about it, this is tall, and everything is coming down like this, like a triangle. So that's part of the composition. Not everything is lined up, The cup is not right next to the bottle. It's like in front of it and more down, closer to us. So that makes it all interesting, right? Um, in the When you see fabric or cloth in still lifes, that's what the cloth is doing. The cloth is connecting things with each other and also helping the composition. Look at Cézanne's paintings. So if you look at Cézanne paintings, there's always fabric or cloth or tablecloth that is wrinkled. So all those curve and folds, it helps with the composition. But we're not gonna have those in here. We're gonna keep it simple. Let's do the slice and a knife, because the knife is what cut the slice, and that's it. And then we start shading, okay? So the slice will be curve, right? Because we have a curve of the orange. It's going to be resting about here, that curve. And I'm going to keep it in an angle. Oop. The line that is right here, as if it's cut. So this fits right here. It's almost like, actually, no, I was going to say the apple symbol, but the apple symbol is a bite. And very smart design. That same bite is the little leaf coming out of the apple. So that's very clever. But here we have a slice of an orange that's been cut out. Okay, where is the knife? It's going to follow the same trajectory as everything that's coming down here. You see? So we're going to put the knife connecting. As long as the knife is touching something, that's it. That's all we need to. And I say touching, not physically, visually. So it could be between this orange and this cup back here, like the pencil. Imagine the pencil is the knife. Imagine the pencil was the knife. That's what we're going to do. Okay. So visually, it connects with the cup because it's going to be behind the cup. But it will not be good designing or design if I leave the knife like that, look, hanging on its own, where nothing is connecting it. So this is what I mean by a cloth. If I leave it like that, fine, sure. But then what artists do is they put a cloth, like if everything is in a cloth on top of it, and that cloth, believe it or not, is connecting everything. If I had a cloth, then I won't worry about this. Okay. So the knife is going to be a straight line in an angle, kind of about, let's finish it about here. Another line. About here. And I'm going to curve this, okay? Just like the handle of a knife. And we're going to put the handle maybe about here. So if you grab this knife, you will grab it just about here. And then this starts curving, like if it was a knife. So this line little here kind of defines, I didn't finish the line. I just did this little edge right here to highlight that it kind of looks like this part is the handle. And that's it. This is our drawing. Okay, so it's good that the oranges went above the line here of the surface. Okay, this also helps visually. If the oranges were under it, it just looks a little funny. And this gives it a little more depth. Um, okay. Perfect. So now we're going to shade. We're going to do some shading. Now, as we do the shading, we're not going to do cloth or foldings or fabric. Okay, so don't worry about that. Um, but I will not forget to tell you about a little trick that is done in drawing when you shade. Okay, so shading, let's see. We could, for shading, you always have to establish where the light is coming from. Okay, in this now, in this world we live in, obviously there's different light source coming everywhere. If you're somewhere, there's light above you, there's a window open that brings the sunlight, you know. But in drawing, because of the exercise we're doing, we're going to emphasize only one light source, one um, direction where the light is coming from. So you could choose the top left or the top right. Okay, we're not doing bottom up. Any light source coming from the bottom, um, it's not common. Okay, it's something that's not common. Um, it can happen. It can happen, but it's not common. And because it's not common, for thousands of years of human evolution, um, we find it strange and sometimes even scarier. So if you something being light up from the bottom, um, remember we evolve having the sun above us, sunlight, or so if something is lighting us up or being light up from the bottom, usually you see that in scary movies or scary um, unknown situations. Great. So what side are we gonna choose? just like the objects here that we did, remember? I'm going to light it up from the top left. And that's also the most common traditional way. Okay, you could light it up from the top right, sure, but I'll tell you right now, maybe 70, actually even more, 80% of artwork, um, or traditionally, um, could be more likely light up from the left to the right. So that means that this every object here, the right side, sorry, the left side is going to be uh, um, lighter. So why don't we start with the bottom? And actually, this is good because, and it's good to start from the left too as you draw. If you're right-handed, okay, sorry. If you're right-handed, sorry for those left-handed. If you're left-handed, you may want to start from the right because your hand. Look at this. If I'm left-handed and I start drawing here, right? I draw this. I draw this. Look how my hand is moving. I'm moving to the right, to the left. So my hand is not going over something I already drew. So if I'm right-handed and I do the bottle and then I move up to the cup and I move to the oranges, my hand is not going over something I already shaded. So this is a good also practice. Um, if you have more trouble with your hand, because then this gets dirty, this part of your hand, you could put a piece of paper like this over your drawing to rest your hand so you don't dirty the drawing too much. But I'm not worried about that. We're not worried about getting little smudging it a little because we're shading it. So all right, so let's shade the right side. So remember, it's a cylinder, so we're gonna do half, but we're gonna be careful as you come up to the center because we're shading, but we're shading lighter to darker because this needs to the shading needs to be subtle. It needs to go and have a transition from lighter to dark because it's not a sharp surface plane. It's curved. So by being curved, you need to be subtle with your shading. So, but I'm gonna shade just half of it, and the right side is the side that's taking the most of the shading. Perfect. Okay. So now I'm gonna emphasize the edge of it. This edge. This size. Because this side is the farther to the right. You see how it's darker than the middle? Because that's the yep. I'm making it darker, 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 darker. Okay. I didn't touch too much the neck here because when you think about it, the light is coming from the top left, yes, but it's actually hitting the neck, this surface here. This is something that went down, and now the light is actually hitting it over here more than this side. This side is completely hidden. This side is a little touch. So I could actually erase a little bit of the neck here, just a little, and emphasize the neck back over here. See? See how over here there's a transition? Perfect. Okay. All right. So same thing with the cap, but the cap could be lighter. excuse me, by doing it a little lighter, it just means maybe that it's a different color, or not color, but tone. So anyway, I just don't want to keep it the same darkness as the rest of the bottle. So that's our bottles. I mean, we're gonna go back to it. Don't worry. We're gonna go back and shade it a little more. Um, but um, let's shade a little bit of the bottom here. Okay, and we'll do shadows at the end. Okay, so this is just shading the object. We'll do shadows at the end because I want to, before I do the shadows, show you the little trick. That will be the last thing in everything. The little trick that I've been talking about. Okay, so oranges. Something I forgot about the oranges is that oranges have, when they're attached to the tree, I forgot that has a name. When you take an orange or an apple or anything, right? You plug it out of the tree. That little thing, um, right? There's a bottom to the orange and there's a top. That top is where the orange was connected to the tree. So we are going to do that part, and it could actually be anywhere. Well, we know in this orange that has been cut out, we know that it must be up here or down here, because when you cut an orange, um, if you cut it in half, you well, you could either cut um, either way, right? You could cut through those 2 points, or you could cut halfway through the orange. But when you cut a slice, okay, I'm not saying this is a rule, but more likely when you cut a slice of an orange, just a slice like this, you more likely cut um, alongside, um, touching the top and the bottom that I'm talking about. But in these two, we're just gonna point them out, and they could actually be anywhere. So let's put one maybe here. Um, you see, by doing like a little X, the letter X, that marks that this is that part of the orange. And maybe this one doesn't show it, okay? So maybe it's hiding behind the bottle or it's on the other side, okay? You don't always have to show it. They don't all have to be highlighted like that. Okay, so let's shade the oranges. It's a sphere. So I told you about the sphere that you got to be very gentle and subtle because it's curved. So we know the right side and bottom is what will be shaded. So bottom over here, I know it's behind the cup, but all of this right side should be shaded. And I'm going to be very gentle as I come closer to the middle. And I'm going to be shading it as a moon, as a when you look at the moon, half moon, or like curved like this. There you go. I don't have to do much of this up here because we don't see that. Perfect. This so far is good. We're gonna keep adding shading to these objects as we go along, but so far this is good. I could do this side a little darker, the right bottom, and that's it. So that's one. You see how things are starting to take. Sorry, you see how things are starting to get a little more two-dimensional, and the shading is what helps. Okay, so just like that one, this one that's behind here, we say bottom and we say right. So this is bottom and this is right. And this is why I told you not to worry about those extra lines that we drew, because by shading it, by shading around or other things, you are covering those lines. Perfect. You could use the side of your pencil if you wish, but again, be gentle as you go around like this. You see, with the sphere is it's a little tricky, But I could emphasize the right over here, and I could emphasize the very, very bottom, because those are the darkest areas. Okay, so that's our orange. I'll show you in a moment how to make it a little more orangey, the surface. This one, let's not touch this right half of it yet. Let's shade this left side, um, following the same rule. The bottom right, but not much of the right because we're only seeing half of it. More the bottom, okay? Okay. Okay. So I'm going to erase some of these lines here for a moment right now to see better my drawing. Clean it up a little. So right now, why don't we do that? Take the eraser of your pencil and clean up your drawing a little in some areas, just to help us see it better. If you have a used, if you're a female and you have a used makeup brush, one of those thick brushes, when you erase like this, you could use that brush to brush away the leftover from the eraser. But you could use any brush that is soft though, not too rough. Okay. Um, Great. So now we're gonna do this half of the orange, okay? Because it's gonna help us to do the slice. So this is gonna be shaded a little more. Everything shaded. It's like a different tone. The whole thing here shaded. And then we're gonna leave. We're gonna make another line that that goes closer to this one. You see, because this emphasizes the what am I the core of the orange. And I could erase in between to make it lighter. There you go. And then the orange from the center here, these things come out. So it's like thin drops of water. So when you do a drop of water, you do it like that, right? Like that. This is a drop of water. So we're gonna elongate it. Look, elongate it. So the bottom is round and the other part is pointy. So one part is round right here and the other part is pointy. So the round part, I'm going to get a sharper pencil. The round part goes towards the core, sorry, the edge, the side, and the pointy part goes towards the center of the circle, of the orange, the core. So look how. I'm going to show you closer in a moment. You see? Right? So I'm going to do a few more curve towards the core. I'm just darkening the shading a little more, so things get a little more emphasized. So let's do the slice, just because we just did that. So the slice, let's outline it better. The slice will be the same idea, right? So we gotta make another curved line that goes here, closer to this one. You see how there's two lines? And that represents the you know, the what protects the orange. And now the trick here now is you got to look at half of the slice about here, which is the center of where the orange was. Right here is the center of this. So now our droplets are going to be um, focusing towards here. Here is the pointy part. Over here is the curved side. Watch of the drops. So like that. They have to kind of gravitate towards the center. We're going to fill this up, and now we'll represent our slice of orange. It's like half a flower. Okay. I'm not going to shade the knife yet because it's pretending to be silver or metal, which is very light. But we're going to do something very soon about the shading, okay? So let's finish shading, and then the last thing will be the little secret that I'm going to teach you today. Okay. So the cup. Let's not touch this um, oval here that represents the opening of the cup. If you think about it, this oval represents that we're looking at inside the cup. Okay, so let's deal with the cup itself. So the right side of the cup and bottom should be shaded. Now remember, the cup, just like the bottle, is a cylinder. It was based on the cylinder. So you cannot be too harsh on the shading. You gotta diffuse it, is what I mean. So you gotta go from the center to the right side, blending it in very lightly as you go. Like that. I'm doing the bottom because we say the bottom. So you see how I am. Now I'm going to emphasize the right because we said that that was the darkest that we're going to do things. And in this drawing, we're emphasizing the shading a lot. Like you can see how drastic the darkness is of the shading. But when you master shading and you do this more often, you could be much more subtle. So I'm not saying it has to be subtle. It could be like we're doing right now. There's nothing wrong with this. This is beautiful. I actually like this more. I like my drawings to be very the contrast between lighter and dark to be very emphasized. Okay, so you see how the transition is subtle. Okay, so the same thing with the handle. So the handle, we're gonna have to do what's on the right side of this line a little darker, but the handle is curved. It's curved by the nature of the handle, but it's curved also in the. But we're going to shade the right side here that's touching the cup and go and diffuse that. Okay, because if you think about it, this part is not being touched by the light as much as this one. So what I want you to think when you're shading is think of what what is the light touching? What is the light hitting? So as a segue, excuse me, that's why this top of the bottle I did not touch, because the light is hitting it straight on from the top. Okay, so as a segue to what I just said, think of where the light is touching the object. Think of the inside of the cup. So the inside of the cup has an opening. This oval is not like this one. This one is shut. This one is open. So by being open, I want you to follow me here. When the light comes, I'm gonna actually leave this pencil. Let me representing the light coming down. So this pencil is like a ray of light. So when the light comes down, follow me here. I'm gonna talk now about the cup, the body of the cup. So when the light comes down, think about it. It touches the left side, but it doesn't touch the right side, because the right side is opposite. The light doesn't reach the right side. It's touching the left side. It's touching the left side of the bottle and the top. On the orange, it's touching the left side top. Okay. Now what's happening in the opening? Now we're gonna go in the opening. As the light comes in, think about it. It's actually touching the right side because it's open. It's getting in here. It's getting in here and it's touching this side. So we're gonna leave this side alone. What the light is not touching is the left side when it's open, because it goes like this. These are rays, these are straight lines, ray of light. So this is not being touched directly. So we're gonna shade the left side in the opening and do the opposite that we did for the body. So we're gonna go from the left to the right and be subtle as we go in the middle, emphasizing the left, being darker. I'm talking about the inside, okay? The inside of the cup. See that? How the cup starting to take a little more form. The shading. Be subtle and gentle. Something I want to erase, not erase, but keep in mind, this is part of the little trick that I want to teach you, is I'm going to erase a little edge here. Because it means the thickness of the cup. You see that? Maybe this could be shaded. Don't worry about this side. All right, but this other side is important. Okay. Look how I shaded the inside. See the inside? This is the body of the cup. This is the inside, and it's opposite. So the light comes down this way, touches the inside here. And when it comes down to the body, it touches the left, but not the right. Now, you see this erasing I did here? I erased like a little, I did not let the darkness of the shading here touch the edge. I erased like a little border that loops around here. And that what that gives it is a little thickness to the cup, which means the light it is touching this top edge because the cup is thick. That's all it represents, and it gives it a little more realistic touch. Okay, did that I hope makes sense a little. So we don't have cloth again. We don't have fabric. It's just a plain table. Um, okay. Now let's put shadows very gentle and softly, and then we'll work with the little secret of what I mean to teach you. I mean, we're learning a lot of other things, but let's put the shadows. So again, working from the left to the right, so we don't smush too much. The bottle. Think of the line. This pencil represents the light coming down. So just in that angle, we could shade. You see the shading of the bottle? We're going to be very gentle, and the shading actually happens, most of it. We're not going to do hard shadows, okay? We're not going to do hard shadows. These are going to be soft shadows. So the shadow gets a little stronger as it's close to the object that is the shadow of. So saying that, you see how I'm subtly making the shadow disappear out? But as it's close to the bottle here in the bottom, I'm making it darker. Okay? Just make darker the shadow as it's closer to the bottom. That's it. Same thing with the cup. Look, same angle. Shows the thickness of the cup. Go a little beyond this point here. Why? Because the cup is thick. So there's more to it back there. Same thing, shade, 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 but make it kind of vanish, meaning be subtle with the disappearance of the shadow. We're gonna make this more subtle in a moment, but as it's closer to the actual cup in the bottom here, that's when you get darker. Oranges, we build, they're gonna be oval. So it's a circle, but in an angle, a circle becomes an oval. So we're gonna go like this. And as it's touching the orange, it gets a little darker. This slice in an angle just disappears right away. Don't worry. The knife, just a little bit, because the knife is not that casting too much of a shadow. Okay, that's it. And to subtle the shadows, make them subtle, you just use your finger to vanish away the leftover and the sharp edges. So all these sharp edges, I'm making them disappear. This line here was very sharp, and by me passing my finger like that, I just make things a little softer. Maybe a little softer in here. So now you see my fingers, how dirty it is? I mean, just with graphite. Using that to kind of soften some of the shadowing. Maybe the knife can have a little more shading. It's too bright, just like the paper. So a little more gray. Okay. All right. So to the does that I'm going to put a little shading in between here because there's a lot going on in there. But anyway, okay, so now a couple of things. Just like you shade, you're going to erase. Okay, so you shade the things that are dark and you erase. You see how my handle was white and now it's kind of grayish? So I have to erase over here to bring back the the brightness that was there. Maybe same thing with the bottle. Maybe some the top left of many of these oranges. Maybe this little edge of the knife. So okay. So the lesson for today, more likely, is that when we shade, it's a contrast of what is bright to what is getting darker or dark. So just as you darken, what I'm trying to emphasize to you is try to light up too, because dark next to bright or light makes that contrast. Okay, and then you want to compensate for that. Okay, so in nature, what we're about to do doesn't really happen as much, or is a norm, but we're gonna make it a norm here because we have a drawing, and it's gonna make the drawing look like a drawing that someone created because you're doing what I'm about to show you. And it's a game. So follow me here. We have the background here or the wall, right? And then we have the table surface where things are. And things, the bottle, the orange, the cup, they're surrounded by either the wall or the surface of the table, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to shade the table surface or the wall. We got to be careful with the table a little because the table has shadows, remember? So we don't want to what we're about to do, we don't want to do it too close to the shadows because we're going to leave the shadows just as they are. They're working fine. But what we're about to do is a contrast of shading happening either on the wall or the surface of the table. So for example, if I have the back of the bottle, which is the right side, darker, then the wall, which is the opposite to the dark, is white. We leave it alone. You see? We're gonna leave it alone because we're creating that contrast from black or shading to bright. Now, the other side is the opposite. The other side of the bottle is taking the light. So we're gonna play a game of shading the wall or shading the opposite side to the bottle. So if the bottle here is bright, the other side, or sorry, the wall in which the bottle is covering over here will be shaded. So I'm going to shade, but this you don't want to emphasize too much. It's very light, so we're going to use our finger. But by shading these areas like this, you're emphasizing the the bright side of the bottle, if that makes sense. I haven't worded things too correctly here, but I hope it all makes sense. So I'm going to move my finger just to soften what I just did. And we're going to use our eraser to clean it. So the way we clean it is in the bottle, because the bottle is the thing that's that has the the brightness. Remember? Okay, I'm just being gentle with my shading, but now I'm about to erase in the bottle because my finger must have gone through the bottle. So now I'm going to clean my bottle. See, emphasize these highlights, and you can see how the background or the wall is darkened. We darken it where the bottle is bright, but we left it alone where the bottle was dark. If you're gonna darken the wall, it should all be darkened, but we're not doing that because we're playing a game. Does that make sense? I don't know. So we could darken here a little the table too, maybe a little, just a little different. I don't want to do it as much as the wall because I wanted the differentiate between the wall and the table. But just use your finger, and we're gonna continue that game. So the let's this orange back here. This orange is dark here, so we're gonna leave the table alone. But it's starting to get lighter up here, so I'm gonna darken the wall right about here, opposite to the orange. That's it. Use my pencil, sorry, my finger, and erase to clean what I may have gone over my finger in the areas that are bright. You see how things are becoming a little more emphasized, and we actually, to tell you the truth, you could actually I went very hard with my line of the bottle, but you could actually erase that line and create the line just by the contrast. So if I were to erase the actual line that's defining the bottle, I could define the bottle by the shading. I don't know if you know what I'm trying to say. I know you do. What I mean is we don't have to sharply create a strong outline. Okay, let's see what else we could do this. Um, this is dark. This is light. This actually here should not be too dark outline. I mean the outline. The outline here of the orange can be more soft. And what's going to make it softer is the fact that over here, the wall is going to get darker because this is a spot the orange is actually bright. So because the orange is bright, the wall kind of becomes a little darker. That's all. But you got to be gentle because if you make it too pronounced, then it already looks unnatural, like it's not real for this to happen. It's not a norm. We're just doing it for the pencil. Sorry, for the drawing. But if you emphasize it too much, then it looks even more awkward. It is not a norm for the background or the table or anything to become um, so I'm going to use my finger, you see, to soften what's happening in all these spots. But I'm going to erase to clean my orange. Does that make sense? You see how this orange here is light up, but because of that, I darken what's behind it. I could even be more, I could even emphasize that even more. Okay. It's almost like what's happening here with this orange. It's bright here, but this one, because it's shaded here, contrasts with the bright. So we can't really actually, and I realize this now, we can't really do too much of this game because already we have areas that are creating that just by itself. So for example, here I could actually raise the table a little more and make it brighter. Sorry. There you go. Okay. But in the bottle is clearly seeing what I'm trying to the message that I'm trying to tell you. Okay. So this is our drawing. Um, we're gonna assign it in a moment. Um, there's something else I wanted to tell you. Yes, the oranges. The surfaces are very bright and white, like meaning the back wall and the tabletop. Um, I promised to keep it simple, so we're gonna keep it simple. Um, let's see. This needs to be a little higher, I believe. Maybe that's too high. I just don't want the line to be too defined constantly, meaning constantly. So, but yeah, so the thing I wanted to talking about the surfaces that are very bright, just like the paper of the things, is the let's make sure the bottom of the bottle is also dark. Anyway, is the oranges. Remember, the oranges have texture. Different from anything else. You could create texture by creating uh, a mark, and we have learned how to make certain marks. So in this case, we're going to make little dots, and we're going to be very subtle and gentle. So just do dots. They're going to be obviously more clear in the bright, in the lighter side of the orange. So do dots all over it, and we're going to have to in the bright side meaning where the light is hitting the orange, we're gonna have to erase these dots because the dots themselves create a shade, and we don't want that shade. We're gonna make this brighter, so we're gonna have to erase again what we just did, just to create a little brightness right there, if that makes sense. You see how it looks a little more real? That orange actually has those dots, but because I erased the bright side, you can still see the dots a little, but less. Same thing with the rest of the orange on the surface, not inside here, because inside the slice and here is not the same as the surface. So we're making those dots and making them more pronounced in the dark areas, but the dots themselves again are a mark, and that mark actually creates a shade. So you could actually shade by making dots in many other things. But we don't want to shade the parts, sorry, that are bright. We're gonna have to erase them because we don't want it. We don't want this shaded, and the dots create shading. So I'm gonna erase again what have already been erased, and that creates um, like a bright, you see that orange? This is more clear, just the dots, but even though I went over dots here, I erase after because I want this to be bright. But you can still see some marks of the dots, and that's very important. Gives it a little more realistic texture. And then the last one, this one, having the pencil sharpen is helps. Don't make the dots too close to each other because then that's the effect of the shading, creates darkness. So the closer the dots are to each other, the darker the mark becomes. Okay. Fine. Erase this. Because it's the bright side of the orange. And we're good. Darken some things. That can be a little more darkened. All right. And this is our drawing. We're gonna sign it and be done. So when you sign, you want to keep your signature clear, but not that it obstructs the actual artwork. So you don't want to be too visible. It shouldn't be something. It should not be something that calls the attention. More likely, paintings or artwork is signed at the bottom right. I'm gonna do this one to the bottom left. You could sign up here. Usually in the corners, up, left, or right, or down, left, or right. But when you usually it's to the bottom right, but the only reason for doing it anywhere else could be either your desire because you like doing it somewhere else, or because the artwork itself calls for not doing it in an area where it obstructs the artwork. So when you think about it, I could do it here and it's fine, but there's too much going on being directed over here. So I'm going to balance it out a little by signing it on this side. I hope that makes sense. It's kind of like putting it out of the way. Perfect. So I'm going to bring it closer. I may have to, and you too, you on your own, clean it up a little where you think it should be clean, meaning erasing. And this is it. It's a good start for the new year. Fruits, especially oranges, represent growth or good things coming your way. I wish everybody a great new year. Best wishes. All you desire comes to fruition. Um, and this is our drawing. Look, we have our bottle. You see how the light part is contrasted because the background, oops, is darker. It's like a little game. It doesn't look real. This will not happen in nature, right? Not anytime something is light up, the background will be dark. But in the drawing, you could play that game, and we did. So that's the neck, the actual bottle, the orange behind it, the cup, Don't forget the cup. When it's the opening of the cup takes the light opposite. So if the light comes from the top left, hitting the cup on the left, the inside gets light up in the right because that's where the light is getting in. We have the other two oranges. Sorry, you see the little dots effect, and why it was important to actually raise where the light was hitting, even though there were dots, because the dots were making that area a little darker. And then the slice and the knife, pretending to be the knife, and some shadows that you can see. So something I want to add, and we're gonna shade it with the pencil, is we're gonna shade a little darker, not the drops, the these drop shapes, but the outside here between that shape and the area of the orange that is um, dark. Sorry, the thickness of the orange that protects the orange. So it's not the same tone. So I'm darkening in tone just this area here. And you could probably do that yourself too. So basically, it's more clear in this one. What we're darkening is this here. Okay? And that's it. I just wanted to show you closer. Perfect. See you next time. Take care.